Pokemon Go is my greatest mistake. It was a game that I thought would kind of die out after the first couple of years and everyone would lose interest in it, stop playing, put it down, and then play the normal games that they really wanted to. But mobile games are stronger than Hercules. So Pokemon Go has not only stuck around for so long, but also grown and grown and grown. And of course, when you have a business that grows, you want it to make even more money, right? And that's where our story begins today. There is so much Pokemon Go drama going on right now in the timeline. I've seen flickers of tweets all over the place, and I wanted to dive into it and kind of let you know what was going on. It all began where many stories like this do. Company want more money. They released a press release saying that the remote raid pass would increase to 525 Pokecoins, and that a single remote raid pass would increase to 200 Pokecoins. Now, as someone that doesn't play Pokemon Go, I had to do a little bit of research for this. These raid passes allow you to join raids in Pokemon Go, basically from wherever you want. So you can play while you're at home, or you can play with an online community, you can go and play with your friends in other places. And they've essentially doubled the price for these remote raid passes. These Pokecoins are premium currency that you can buy. Now, technically, you can actually make Pokecoins by playing the game, but of course, as we all know when it comes to these scummy mobile games, it's much easier to just buy them, and they kind of rely on the whales that buy the coins to make most of their money. And as these big companies like to do, they've added a solution to a problem that they created by adding a premium 3-pack to the shop for 250 Pokecoins, which, guys, that's technically 3 for almost 1, right? It's actually cheaper, but of course it's more expensive that way. They're trying to push the player base into maybe spending a little bit more than they usually would, because let's face it, guys, Pokemon Go's on the downturn, everyone. It's not looking so good. The in-app purchases in US dollar millions has plummeted from 877 million 2021 to only $703 million. Guys, we're basically on the poverty line here. It's communist Soviet Russia right now. We've got no money. Only $703 million for a mobile game? We might as well just hang up our coats and call it a day at that point. How are we supposed to function in only $703 million? Now, clearly, a lot of players are very upset about this change. They looked at that and they said, no, I don't think we should do this, actually. And most of the argument comes from the fact that there are a lot of disabled players and rural players, maybe some younger players, that will then have to spend more money just to keep playing the game as they usually would. The amount of Pokecoins that you can grind from a gym just isn't enough to make sure that they can still be active and enjoy the game as they usually would. Let's not kid ourselves. It's not like the only money that they can make from Pokemon Go is from the in-app purchases. It's not like they're reliant on that. If you just play the game, they can't harvest all this data that they can sell anyway, so they're making a ton of money regardless of whether you pay for Pokecoins or not. And a lot of people already were paying. We saw they made so much goddamn money. A ridiculous amount, a ludicrous amount, more than any main series game can usually hope to make, and on a yearly basis as well, with millions of daily players. So instead of increasing the price of the remote raids, they could have threw the rural and the disabled and the younger players a bone. Maybe they could have even decreased the price, saying, we see you. As a rural player, it's hard to play Pokemon Go. Have you ever went out to the countryside and tried to find a Snorlax? Have you ever climbed to the top of the hill and looked around and thought, no Pokestops around here. Not a whole lot. They could have done them a solid, because it's not like it would cost them much anyway, and it would signal to the players that they want them to continue playing, that they actually care about them. It's not just the urban players that are in the big cities that they care about, but they actually went in the opposite direction, because apparently it's really profitable to just be an arsehole to your players. But like Star Wars The Fourth: A New Hope, the players have started to fight back against the evil Empire and Palpatine, aka Niantic. They have started to boycott Pokemon Go, trying to put up posts encouraging other players to boycott, to not play, essentially to show them and hit them in their wallet where it hurts, because, hey, if we can maybe make them earn $702 million instead of 703, they'll realize that it's actually a bad choice and revert it, because, as we know, the only way to get a company to do something that you want is to hit them where it hurts, and that's right in the wallet. Money is all they care about. I've said this many times, but companies do not care about you. Your favorite franchise does not care about you. Your favorite company does not care about you. Your brand does not care about you. It cares about money. That's the first and foremost thing that matters to it and nothing else. They will do everything they possibly can to maximize the amount of profit that they can make while also maintaining some kind of fan base. When big corporations get involved in anything, it always turns out the same way. There's been a ton of Pokemon Go YouTubers talking about this. It's clearly a big thing in the community right now, and basically, they haven't really said much about it. Joe Merrick, the owner of Cerebi.net, one of the biggest Pokemon fan sites in the world, has also spoken out saying that it's going to harm rural trainers, people with social anxiety, people with disabilities. Also, chiming in with the fact that there's a lot of people that work from home now. There's a lot of people that don't commute into work. They don't go into cities anymore. And just the whole structure of the world has changed ever since COVID. And 2020 was when they introduced the remote raid pass. So they introduced it to counteract the fact that people weren't going and walking around as much anymore. And now they're increasing it because they know that the world isn't going to go exactly back to the way that it was before that, and then we can maybe squeeze a little bit more currency out of that if we just increase the price a little bit. And of course, as these things go, if the price change goes through and they make more money, then what's to stop them from doing it again? They're just incentivized to continue screwing over the player base because it worked. So why wouldn't you? But some good news is the community is fighting back here. They were ratioed on a level never seen before with 5.9 million views, 3,500 quote retweets, and only 5.8 thousand likes. This kind of ratio on Twitter is unlike anything anyone has ever seen. They were taken to Twitter jail and spanked for being bad boys, with lots and lots of blue check marks chiming in to say that this is a really terrible idea. Even Ali A. So far, they haven't responded, but they'll probably have to eventually, because people keep screaming about it until the cows come home, and it's not looking too good for them. But that's not all. The drama continues, and not in a good way. When big gaming companies make these kind of mistakes, some fans lack brain cells. They only have the two to rub together to play the game, which means that they lack the ability, the cognitive capacity to understand that the community managers that work for these big companies, first off, don't have a complete control over the mistakes that they make, that the companies make, and also they forget that the community managers are actually real people with feelings and thoughts, and maybe shouldn't be harassed. Which is why I was disgusted when I saw that one of the community managers, the global community manager for Pokemon Go, tweeted out that he got his first death threat. He goes on to say that this is not your communication line to Niantic, because even if it is part of his job, screaming harassment and death threats and insults at a random community manager because it's the only kind of connection, it's the only lead that you have to a company, it's not going to do anything. In fact, it's going to make you look like a massive arsehole, which is why another community manager tweeted out, "My job is to listen and read. I do a lot of that every day. Depending on the company, I'm also allowed to respond, but with pretty strict parameters." Which makes sense because Pokemon is probably the strictest company in the entire world with what you can say and what you're not allowed to say. For example, Pokemon YouTubers that do randomizers are pretty much blacklisted from working with the Pokemon company because they're so strict of what you can do with the IP. If you work for the Pokemon company and you tweet out like Pikachu smelly, you're probably going to get guillotined. I can imagine that most of the community managers for these companies that work with Pokemon are muzzled constantly. So when people are tweeting harassment and threats, it's unfortunate that the community managers aren't allowed to respond in the correct manner by saying, "Go back to your basement, you smelly little goblin, don't talk to me ever again, you suck, I hate you." But fortunately, I don't have such a restriction. I'm allowed to say whatever I want. So I have to admit, if you are taking what's happening with Pokemon Go, getting so upset about it that you said, I'll tweet death threats and harassment, insults, transphobia, homophobia at the community managers for the game that I like so much, then you may need to look in a mirror because you're a troglodyte. You should probably put down the phone for a second and think, what are you actually doing in this scenario? Is what you're doing helpful? Is the 7th transphobic tweet that you're sending to a random community manager really gonna make the change that you think it will? Or are you just a little smelly goblin that's using an opportunity to be an arsehole to someone else because you're really unsatisfied with your own life? The people that do this kind of thing, that go onto Twitter and just hurl harassment and insults everywhere, they're not happy people. And if you're one of those people, then you know it in yourself as well. You're not a happy person. No one that has a good family, lots of friends, really good social life, and generally a whole lot going for them is then going to log on Twitter and send transphobia or death threats or harassment. It's important to remember that there's a difference between the corporate overlords that run these massive companies and scraping all the wonderful, delicious, tasty money bonuses and push the idea of we need to charge charge more. We need to make more money. Growth, money, let's go. There's a difference between those people and the people at the bottom. The people on the front lines, maybe the developers, maybe the community managers, the people that work in media. They're not the people that are getting all the money. It's not like a rogue developer just walks in and says, I'm gonna increase the price and I'm gonna wire all the bonus money to my bank account personally. No, these are decisions that come from the top. It's the CEOs. It's the executives. It's the people that are so far and away detached from the game that you play that you don't even know the names of the people. I bet you don't know the Niantic CEO or the executives. You have no idea who you are. So don't start yelling at people that haven't done a fucking thing wrong and being an asshole because you can't play the game that you like anymore. It's not that important. Anyway, yeah, I haven't played Pokemon Go in forever. I don't even have it on my phone, so hey, hope they revoke that change. You should subscribe to this YouTube channel.